The one thing that I've been doing this weekend is watching a lot of documentaries. So I've been watching All In. I've been watching another documentary called The Uncomfortable Truth. And I actually watched a couple of those like more than one time. And what's not lost on me is the voter suppression, is the corruption that is like what's happening at the post office is beyond me. Like the idea that we're trying to purge people, we're trying to prevent people from voting. And that's one of the strategies. And, you know, for me, part of what is really challenging is to see a leader do that so blatantly, to like employ tactics that are so in your face that we're gonna steal an election like we stole the one before. And to have people brainlessly, kind of what I perceive as brainlessly, mindlessly just go along, when it's a violation of all our rights. Like it's a violation of all our rights to have that be part of the process. So I'm really concerned about that as well. And that's why I thought this was also so important, because I thought it was important to flag for people who feel dissatisfied, which is like probably the majority of I would say, people who are experiencing this moment. But if you're dissatisfied, then we have to act. And we have to do some things like register to vote, like find out what some of the things are we can do. Maybe it's walk in your ballot. If you're in California, there's doing all mail-in ballots is what I've heard, but they'll have places you can take it. So I wanted to just spend a few minutes talking about ideas about how to confront and surmount any voting barriers. There's so many. I would say first start with watching All In just to get information, which is about Stacey Abrams and her work. But I think also I heard LeBron James, for example, has an organization where he's talking about voting and even paying if people have fines and fees that are preventing them from voting. Part of his work is paying some of those fees. So I feel like I would love to maybe even start some kind of resource list to share or something, because part of this is we can have the ideas, the strategy, and the concerns, but there's an action step. So do you all have any ideas about voting action steps people can take? I'd love to talk about that for a few minutes too.
I don't know if this is exactly answering your question, but I will say, like, one of the things I've thought about doing this year and got some information on, which I'd never thought of doing before, was just being a poll worker, which I know, like, in a pandemic, and especially with so many of poll workers being in that age range that is more susceptible to some of the, really severe consequences from COVID. Like, how can we, because there are already long lines at polling places, and that it's unfortunate, but I think we almost expect that there are going to be long lines and such. But like, how, like, I'm thinking about, like, me being someone who can risk it a little bit more. Like, how can I just help to support the voting, like, process?
I like that idea, and I think at my job, I've heard other people say that they want to do poll work and be a poll worker, volunteer as a poll worker. And I think that there's some organizations that probably give people the day off or time off to go vote. Maybe there's a push that people can make to like get the day to volunteer for something like that. So I love that idea. Julie and Christine, anything that you all can think of?
I know that there are organizations, I think if you look at Vote Save America, that's one start, and maybe where you can phone bank, and the phone banking is actually just to make sure people know how to check that they're registered, make sure they know what, in terms of like mail-in ballot, drop it off, that kind of thing, where their polling places. So I think we've also talked about how we don't like calling people, but you're not actually calling to persuade them to vote for any party, but simply calling to make sure that they are set up and have a plan for voting. So I would look into that also.
Well, like I said, I at least start with my siblings and again, my nieces and nephews. Hey, the voter registration date is due in your state. Like, did you do it? And so I've kind of done that in the past, but I'm trying to be very serious about it now. I have been doing the mail-in ballot for several years, but I usually wait until the day it's due and I walk it in because I, haven't filled it out. I haven't started reading it. So now I'm going to try to push on the early voting. Saw those lines in Virginia, earlier this week. And then we've been sharing information about how to track your ballot. And so I'm going to do those things for the first time. I think there are different things to do. One of the things is just donating. So I've been giving to Stacey Abrams' group and Fair Fight, and letting those people who are already doing the work, like trying to support them. And then as a teacher, again, I've done this in the past, but it's even more pressured this time. All right, the deadline to vote is like this. This is where you do it. Let me show you. Have you done it? This is how you can check. Obviously, I'm not telling them how to vote, but they're 18, 19, 20-year-olds. And I remember at that age going, I don't even know how to vote. Like, what am I supposed to do? And so just sharing that information, making space in class, letting them see it together. And our college is also doing some work there too. And so just pushing those things. I don't know if I'm supposed to admit to this, but also like giving them Tuesday voting day off of class to be like, okay, like at least during class time, you could go get that done if you needed to get done. So just trying to reach the people that are around me in that way. I'm so surprised that it's not a clear decision. It says we won't know until the day of, when in my mind, like it should be an obvious slam dunk. So that's nerve-wracking. Very nerve-wracking. So you always feel like, is this enough? Is this enough? I don't want to look on November 4th and go, did I do enough? But there's just so much to do. So that's at least a starting point. And then I think us talking together as well and trying to push each other and share information and share links and that kind of thing is a part of the task list as well.
Thank you. And a couple quick things. One thing is, if you're in California, you're probably going to get something like this in the mail. And it's funny because I remember when I had moved back to the United States in 2007, started working at the Haas Center. There was an election, I think it was 2008, the following year. And I had never actually voted in this country because I explained that I was a little bit of a back in the day. So I don't think I voted in any election before 2008. And I remember asking one of our colleagues, Katie, I don't know if you remember Katie, but like questions about voting and like different, like the localities and different things. And she was really helpful. So I would just say, like, especially to our new voters, like Julie alluded to, students or someone who's just gotten the right to vote, whether you're a returning citizen from incarceration or you are just nationalized, there's information that I would encourage you to seek out so that you can get informed about voting as well. I think that is important. An organization that I shared with this group is indivisible.org, which feels like a place that was really helpful for me and, gave ideas about what you could do to participate. And so there's so much information out there. So I would encourage people to start looking at information. We're 40 couple days, like 42 days or something away from the election. So it's like around the corner.